Yeah,
I
Is it
loved
good?
it.
it was a wild ride.
His breath.
My ring that tracks my stress, like during the movie was like.
Oh, is that the aura ring?
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
what? It's about ping pong. What is this?
Oh,
No.
it's a
It's
lot
not really.
more.
No.
This is
Is it really?
stress.
I went in thinking, oh, it's about a guy who's a really good ping pong player.
That's what I would imagine.
No.
It's
No,
not.
no,
No,
no.
all right.
And it's based on a true story. The guy does exist. As I said, my daughter has seen him play a number of times.
Oh, really?
Just so you know, we are live because it's 7:02.
Oh.
I started the meeting just
We
to
don't
make it.
formally endorse or not endorse. any
Marty
listeners.
Supreme.
We're very big fans of Marty Supreme. We're gonna commence at 7:15 due to the slight schedule delay, but it will resume at 7:15 or thereabouts.
Yeah, do we want to get the Pledge of Allegiance and all that out of the way, or you want to?
I would have the mayor call the meeting to order
Oh.
formally pledged then. I
Okay.
think that's probably appropriate.
Okay.
But whatever you want to do, you're acting, so.
Look at her. Look at you.
Right. How about
Taking out risk.
free donuts for all board members?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Let's get that passed.
Good.
Just in
We should
time
be
for
happy.
budget comes.
Where's the giant village checkbook? Bring me the giant village checkbook.
Right
Only
here.
the giant checks.
Yes.
I will only write $6.
Yes. So, yeah. we just need to-
I'm gonna mute this.
Okay,
Okay, Mayor, whenever you're ready to call the
Okay,
meeting. to order.
calling the meeting to order. Okay.
Pledge of
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The fire chief is not quite here, so do you want to start with your budget?
Sure, we can, yeah, we'll start with
Yeah,
that and then
and
if
it'll
I'm
be a
not done,
natural
then we
flow.
can just kind of
Switch.
switch back. So maybe
Yes.
we pull up the
Right, I believe
tax
you're right,
cap.
we're gonna like-
Yes.
It's a little-
Okay, the screen is sharing to show.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so budget preparation has began since the new year. All the departments were asked to review their operations and they will present their requests to the board at the upcoming budget workshops. Before the board hears the departmental requests, an analysis of contractual and external factors that will shape the 26-27 budget has been completed. The approach to this year's budget was for each department to present well thought out budget requests and carefully evaluate requested amounts line by line based on need. They've also been asked to include as much detail and itemization and backup documentation as possible to support their requests. Some figures will be revised as we receive more information, but areas such as benefits, debt service, and retirement system contributions are set. Village finances are operated primarily through the general fund. All taxes are paid into it and all general operating expenditures are made from it. The village also has water, sewer, and public library funds into which all special revenues for these purposes are paid and for which those expenditures are made. So we'll start out with the property tax cap calculation. And this template or schedule here is given to us by the state. And then we have to file this on the state website. So the calculation is provided by them. The first item that gets taken into account is the prior year tax levy. So that was $17,371,605. And then we have to add in any exemptions that were removed during the year. So that was $14,721. So that leaves us with the prior fiscal year tax levy starting point of the $17,386,326. To that, we apply the tax base growth factor, and this number is derived from any new construction and the issuance of COs. So that's 1.0213, which gives us $17,756,654. To that, we add any pilots receivable. So we currently just have one that's for Columbia University. Then to that total, we apply the allowable levy growth factor. So we're limited to the lesser of 2% or the inflation factor. So the inflation factor for this year was 2.63%. So we're limited to the lower, which always causes issues because prices are rising more than the inflation factor we're allowed. So that leaves us with the tax levy limit of $18,112,108. There's a pension exclusion of $30,716, which we'll discuss later, which results in the total tax levy limit plus exclusions of $18,142,824, which is an increase of $756,498 or 4.35%, compared to last year's tax cap. So that's the maximum we would be able to increase the budget to remain tax cap compliant. Do you want to go back to the fire? Not like an
Sure,
okay
sure.
stopping
You-
point
yeah,
if we
sure.
wanted to
You
go
wanna
back
take
to
over?
the fire.
So we just did a kind of a brief budget overview, but you can go ahead and start if you're ready.
Sure. Is there any way we can throw it up on?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna pull it up right now.
So just because a lot of folks are new or, and or we just haven't had one of these discussions in quite a long time, we figured let's just give everybody a little brief overview of more than just the capital stuff, right? And then eventually during this discussion, we do want to have a real heart to heart and figure out what we should really spend our time and effort and dollars on, because with the facilities planning, we don't know if we're staying there or if we're moving. And I don't necessarily want to spend my tax dollars and department capital dollars on a project that just doesn't make sense yet. If we know we're staying there, let's go for it, right? But we just don't know. So if you just want to go to the next slide, do you have like a clicker or?
Okay.
Actually, the same thing, even if you're staying there,
Fancy.
Right.
you're staying
Well,
there under different
We're still
options.
gonna have to do some obviously
Decision making becomes
reconfiguration.
different, even if
Exactly.
you do stay there.
Exactly.
And am I gonna put, this thing here versus there? I can't tell you that because you don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
So, okay, so just quick overview, our mission statement. Sorry, that's just our mission statement. We've had to put that together with our fire company attorney. That's just something that we all have to do with our best practices. And so just in case we get audited by PESH or OSHA or anybody else, we have that documented. So, next. All right. So our goals, obviously, we are, for those that don't know, we're probably one of the largest, if not the largest, department within the village. We are all volunteers. Yes, the three of us get a stipend, but I can tell you right now that stipend is probably,
Don't even go into
I
it.
hear the chuckles, so we'll talk about that another time.
We're familiar with stipend.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, emergency response, providing fire suppression, rapid response to emergencies, any type of emergency that you could imagine. We do team up with the police department as well for various other tactical emergencies that may come up in their world, because we also know that we will likely be called with them. Training and readiness. So we conduct regular training nights. We'll get into the details of that in a few minutes. We're making sure all of our members are trained. We're skilled with the appropriate training courses. That means members are either taking courses on their own time at the county or emergency services, online courses. We bring in vendors to conduct some of our trainings as well, just because they have the expertise. And it's sometimes easier to bring some courses in-house and pay for that versus going to the county where, some of our members are desperately trying to get into some of those courses that fill up very quickly.
Or just not offered.
Or not offered, correct,
Yes.
yeah. Apparatus and equipment, we're obviously getting those inspected on an annual basis, along with our hose lines, our ladders, and everything else on the truck. So there's an extensive maintenance schedule that we adhere to. Obviously, community support and volunteer recruitment. The administrative side, right? So it's reporting, it's logistics, it's making sure that if we need help, we can get help from whether it's other departments around us or it's just other factors within the county, Con Edison, gas and electric side, because there are two different sides.
Every time you hear the horn go off, there's a report.
Yeah. And even without the horn, there's still reporting that we have to conduct for our trainings. We have to document all that. We have, had a PESH complaint a year and a half ago Um,
What's
and
that
then,
question?
so it's an anonymous complaint that it goes against, or the belief is that the department did something incorrect, right? You go to a fire scene, you didn't wear your gear, or you didn't follow policy.
Let me interject. That complaint was made about not just Irvington, it was made about Dobbs Ferry, it was made about Ardersley, it was made about Tyler. It was somebody with a gripe, and they just threw every town around.
Towards the fire service in general,
Yeah.
not specifically.
Yeah, I don't want to just say.
Irvington.
That's actually-
Yeah. So if you ever want to see what goes into compiling that, I can tell you the amount of paper, and electronic documents. So
And now we have a nice binder ready for it.
yeah. Interagency coordination and mutual aid. So obviously, when we get what we deem a working fire, knock on wood, we don't. We have different departments that come and help us suppress that fire, because we just all know we can't all do it ourselves. Fire prevention, public education. We do firefighting programs, firefighter safety, or fire safety rather, with the public schools and some of the daycare centers, and obviously firefighter safety, right? To me, that's the biggest thing, getting everybody on the truck, getting them off the truck, and going home. That to me is the biggest concern that I have outside of everything else. All right, next page, and I'll try and speed up, sorry, because I probably don't want to go home.
Yeah.
All right.
You only get this once a year.
So the department is made up of 100% volunteers. There's 43 active members. I didn't list the inactive members because that's around the same number. They still have benefits to come to the firehouse and participate. They're just not our active members going on calls. Call volume fluctuates year after year. This year we did end up on I would say a higher note or higher call volume. About 419 calls, which average, a little over one per day. So that was, one of our larger years.
But it has been steadily increasing.
It has been increasing, yes.
Probably along with the population.
Correct. More houses, more population, people just,
Do you have a breakdown of that increase by type of call?
so we were actually having this debate.
To that point, it's an indication of like volunteerism, right? So like we go to Dobbs Ferry a lot more now too, because like they're down members as well, right? Other departments are down members as well. So we have a lot of mutual aid response. And I think that's a large portion of the increase as well.
Would we be able, I guess, going forward, because I think that mutual aid response piece is important too. I guess, well, and we've been talking a bit about this, but like, will we be able to get different wording, like, sort of, I noticed like what types of, but do you know by number, like how this breaks down? And then also especially want to know like what mutual aid calls, how does it break
Right,
down
so
in
it's
Irvington and
different.
outside?
Mutual aid calls are based on the type of call too. So if we have any structural response, so any actually clear smoke, clear fire, Dobbs Ferry is coming to us and Tarrytown's coming to us. Same thing in Dobbs Ferry. If there's any STRU assignment, we call it, right? Any smoke or fire, we're going to Dobbs Ferry. And that's typical of the communities around us.
We can look at
So
the
we would like some
breakdown.
data on that.
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
How many times do we go to them? How many times do they come to us?
We just need to look at the software that we have and see if it's pre-configured. Otherwise, we'll have to.
We
work
just
with them.
changed softwares January 1st.
So, but we can look at 2025 and see if we
Yeah.
can get that breakdown.
Like my first question was like, do you have a lot of boat? Like,
So
no, I'm just curious because because I know the boat
that
is.
is a great question.
Yeah.
Right now, no.
But more it's just as an example, like
Yeah,
so many
yeah.
things. It's like, well, if you need that, then you need a boat.
Well,
So
it's
it
important for
determines
you
what
to
we need to do.
understand why, right? Because right now our boat is docked, or
I know.
not docked, outside of the water. We could put it on a trailer, or it's on a trailer,
Right.
put it on a hitch, bring it to Tarrytown and launch. But we also have Tarrytown that has a boat and it's typically in the water. But the reason why it's not in the water is due to the boat dock situation at the boat club.
Yes.
We pay a lease year over year. We've held back for as long as I can
We haven't paid
remember.
since like 2017.
Yeah.
around
Since the
that.
dock floated
Since
away.
the
Well,
dock
club member,
floats.
I've been looking at the
Yeah.
broken pier for.
So when that does come, if it ever gets built, then we'll have a conversation about getting.
I think my point is more like each of these has like different needs. And so
Correct.
like it's actually helpful to know how it breaks down so that we can support you. Like, do we need to invest in the
I
boat?
want to interject with the boat, but we have that, our small Zodiac, which we get called for Mamaroneck when they get flooding.
Yeah.
So we were having boat calls, you're thinking of Hudson River. No, we get boat calls on the other side of the county too, with our smaller boat and stuff like that, when people get flooded, they expect to be rescued too.
And we can also deploy that in like the reservoir too.
Yes. More for in a reservoir, I'm gonna say that's an ice situation. If a
Right.
person falls in through the ice and stuff like that, a boat, pushing a Zodiac on is very safe for our guys and who, you know, we suited up to do it. It's a very safe way of doing it.
Or river town, I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, you know, I wouldn't just say boat is like the river. You
I did
know?
always imagine it being boat safety issues, people like, but it sounds like it's.
We are still called to boat calls now. If it's off our jurisdiction, we're still an extra set of eyes for either county PD or other jurisdictions.
And you put the boat in the water and go?
What's that? We previously did. So right now, if it's like in the Hudson River, like say off of Matheson, we'll respond to Matheson Park and have another set of eyes to direct the incoming boats.
So I mean, I think would be helpful, right? Because I'm looking at brush fires and I just have some memory of recent brush fires in the woods. I think it's important, like, I think to know like what's happening and even what's changing,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's why it's important to know where the, you know, where it ends up, like how many, you know, boat incidents, brush fires, you know, structure fires, car accidents is like, well, I think, you know, we need to understand from the perspective of like what might be changing, right? Like what, especially like the brush fires, I don't know, is that a constant or has it been more more?
I mean,
I
that
don't like to,
increase.
we don't
Yeah,
like
that's-
to
Yeah.
say, just
Yeah.
because.
that could be
jinxing
mulch, that could be
ourselves,
mulch
but-
on fire,
Yeah.
smoking,
Yeah.
or it could be a year and a half ago, we were in Hastings for a very large brush fire in the St. Andrews Golf Course.
You brought up software as an issue, and you're changing it. I assume you guys looked at that long article in the New York Times speaking about the nightmare of fire department's software.
So our software is great. We just,
Yeah.
so the
The incident reporting.
incident reporting was just updated federally. So right now we're in the midst of moving to Nearest, which is new reporting system. It is part of our module that we have with our fire software right now. We just need to make sure that we can break down what you're asking for. I think we can.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
think we can. I mean, the reporting's pretty straightforward. I mean, I've done 20 calls already so far, but I just haven't dug into the reporting yet. But
So you feel confident with the software that you now
Yeah,
have?
absolutely.
And the cost of that is not excessive, right?
I think it's
You're the right place.
30,000.
I think it's
for the
30,
year, if I'm not
35,000,
mistaken.
if
So,
I'm not
I mean,
mistaken, but
Not,
Kate can give you that answer too. I think it's like 30, 35 for the
Okay.
year.
it's not a price of a new truck,
Yeah.
so. We'll go there. So these are just a sampling of the types of calls, but I mean, you could think about in your daily life, right? Like, you don't know who to call, you call 911 and we might show up, right? So depending on what it is. Trainings, we train twice a month, minimum, first and third Tuesday of the month. We start at 6:30. We either utilize locations around the village, we go to the Department of Emergency Services in Valhalla, we go to neighboring departments. And we also bring in third-party companies that handle specific training requests that we might have.
All the active members train twice a month.
Sorry?
All the active members are going to these trainings.
That's the expectation.
So on that note, also, there's monthly maintenance. So first Saturday of the month, we all get together, 9 in the morning, we go to the firehouse, we check all the trucks, we check our air packs, we check our gear. We make sure everything's in tip-top shape. We're checking the saws, so all of our equipment to make sure it's operating. God forbid, we don't want to get to a scene and something's just not working. Right? We'd rather find out, obviously, sooner than later.
In terms of these things that you're describing, how do you feel you compare with what Dobbs Ferry does with their volunteers?
You want to answer that?
I want to answer that.
You can go ahead.
Please.
I think we're better.
Yeah.
I do. I think hands down, we're, out of the departments around us, I think we're the best trained.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
we're-
I mean,
we're the
this has been
best
for
trained,
the
We're
21
the
years.
best
of-
motivated.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I'm gonna say, I think we're a step above.
Great.
Yeah,
And what's the reason for that? It's because.
Extra training, we do more training and stuff like that. We do more training. In Dobbs Ferry, Tarrytown, you're assigned to a ladder truck, you're assigned to or an engine, or you're assigned to a rescue. And that's how their departments are broken down. In Irvington, we have to be trained on the rescue, We have to be trained on the engine, we have to be trained on the ladder, so everybody, we know exactly what the other side needs. You may be on a ladder today, I may be an engine today, tomorrow we can reverse it. And we both have to be equally trained to do both of those jobs. And you might be in the rescue today, you better know how to use all the rescue equipment, which is a specialized equipment, which other towns have, basically don't even really have. So yes,
You could ask the county instructors, because we're there training in the burn building a lot. They'll say, oh, you guys are here again? We're there the most of any department training in their facilities.
And I assume that has something to do with the motivation as well.
Commitment to safety, yeah. I mean,
It's that, it's also the fact that we sit down and look at our needs, right? So we're also looking to see what are the things that we either A, need to train on, so there's obviously required things throughout the year that we have to do, OSHA training, pest training, CPR, first aid, right? And countless other things. But there's also things that we want to sprinkle in, right? Maybe we want to add a water rescue course that we just haven't had in quite a long time. And we haven't had a water rescue in a long time either. So we want to refresh people, and newer members just don't have that experience. So, we take quite a bit of time to, right before the new year to draft our schedule for the year. We work in hand with the county emergency services to make sure we can get the facilities over there that we need. So the burn buildings, the smoke buildings, the tower. So there's plenty of, opportunity for us to get over there and get the training that we believe, well, we know we need. And it's just, finding additional time if we want to sprinkle in more. Because let's face it, right? Our members, between training, calls, community events, you name it, they're putting in over 400 hours a year. For us three, you triple that. We're doing this as literally a full-time job. So, I work in a corporate office Monday through Friday. I'm putting in 1,900 hours a year, give or take. We're doing that and not getting paid. Or, sorry, there's a stipend, but whatever.
we'll call it not getting paid.
Yeah. So, we go to our day jobs. Thankfully, Chris retired from the village and we have a little more of his time during the day. So Danny and I don't have to run out of work. So that's very important for us.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just curious about like the size of the membership, because like what you're describing, it sounds like an incredible amount of things for 43 people to get done, right? And I'm just wondering, like, what is the right size for the fire department in your view? Like, how has it changed over time? Like, what's the ideal number? What's like?
You volunteering?
I'm just curious to understand like what
There's
the
room for you.
So,
And how that compares to other villages.
I'm
So-
used to this. Every time I go to the meeting, they ask if I want to volunteer.
I'm still waiting for you to sign it. Honestly, the number, you're never gonna have too much, okay? Are we understaffed? I think we're making do with what we have, right? I think, could we get more? Yeah. I do have it on my list to reach out to the superintendent of schools to try and talk this up a little more. When I was in high school, I volunteered. For better or worse, we left school to go to calls and help the community.
It's also more difficult nowadays too, so when you're an incoming member, the training's a little bit different now
Yeah.
than 21 years ago.
Much more sophisticated.
Yeah, so I mean, it was still 3 months, but it was a little less rigorous, I would say. Then, they added probably about 100 hours more to the standard firefighter 1 training, which is like going to the fire academy. So getting members in and explaining to them, you get them in the office, they send you the email, I'm interested in volunteering, and then you'd say, hey, guys, this is the expectation within the first year. You have to go to the fire academy.
And you're getting your
It's-
certification as a paid fire person, right? So you're taking 100 and some odd hour course now. You could, in theory, go from a volunteer department to a paid department very easily. It's basically like a transfer. I mean, you have to get hired.
And how do you compare that question that I was asking to other villages?
I think our numbers are average compared to other departments. There's some that are hurting more than us, obviously. But where you have that challenge, departments, not us, but other departments are starting to do more and more mutually.
It really is tough for somebody who has a job And then they come in and like, the one, a couple nights a week, plus the weekends, you know. Hey, I have a wife, I have kids and stuff like that, you know, I can't do this right now, not that they don't want to, but
It's hard.
it's hard, you know, and we,
On
everybody
that
understands
specific
that.
conversation, forget the stipends, we all know about those. There are some benefits, I understand, that firefighters can receive as.
From a company perspective, not a
Sure,
department.
we get a benefit of having a higher chance of cancer, getting hurt, no, we do, and stuff like that.
There's individual benefits that the village provides.
So,
No.
oh, you have the
Small.
the retirement.
The retirement
Yes.
piece, but
Yes.
that's through New York State. That's different.
Okay,
And
and,
a little bit of a tax break,
right. a little bit of tax.
a tiny tax break, yes.
So one of my questions is, how does that compare to other villages? And would that be something that we should look at increasing to make it more likely to have a volunteer?
I think our LoSAP is pretty much in line
We could,
with the villages around us,
yeah,
if
some
I'm
people
not
can
mistaken.
take it earlier, some people can expand it later and
Correct.
stuff like that. They add on as years go on, it goes at. past
I know
55.
other villages have recently expanded. I know Austin just had a town vote on that.
I mean, from a tax break perspective, we just got the school tax credits in the last 2 years, I think, year and a half,
Yeah.
2 years. So that's great.
Is it meaningful? I mean, to your members? I mean, do they like regard that as something?
10% off my school tax bill, yeah, it means something to me.
Yeah.
It definitely, you guys know what my pension is, and stuff like that. So yes, it means something to me, okay?
I mean,
Um,
any bit counts. My son goes to a private school, so, any, funds that we can take off from a school perspective on tax would be great. Property taxes, yeah, it would be great. Do I think that's gonna drive membership?
Right, that's what, I guess maybe that's what you're getting at. You're
I-
getting
that's
at, are there incentives that could motivate people to volunteer? Because volunteering is hard,
Yeah.
right? Like you're
We have this
talking,
debate all the time.
right, I mean, you're
right?
talking to volunteers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I could tell you how much time I spend on doing it. It's a lot.
Totally.
And I, again, same thing, right? I have a time job, running a law firm, have a child, 2 children, actually, one that just was applying to college. So I totally understand the time commitment, right? So I think what you're trying to get at is, what are ways to kind of incentivize people that they might be interested in, like, hey, I didn't know these are the benefits of doing this,
Sure.
in addition to like,
I think it's not just the recruitment, to your
Yeah.
point, it's the retention
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Because, my family, look, I could get priced out of this place.
Indeed.
I have 2 young kids, a wife that's a teacher, and I work for a hospital. So, I mean, I could easily get priced out of living here. And I think that's the larger issue. We have, 20, 25-year members that are now starting families. They joined when they were in high school. And now they're growing families and they can't afford to live here anymore.
But there's 2 things on that, really. There's the volunteering stuff. Certain people volunteer, I would say,
Yes.
you're also,
Certain type of
also
person.
your paid coaches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's the type of thing. I know one of the weird things that Long Island does, a couple of towns, they give their firefighters free water. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of a weird thing. But I don't know if that's an incentive that would make you want to say, yeah, I want to be a fireman, can I get free water?
Right.
I mean, the reality.
you don't
is-
mean bottled water, you
No, I
mean
mean,
water for your
water
house.
for your
Okay.
Yeah.
We can work on that.
I'm like, are you not getting free water? Because it looks like, no, just kidding.
I mean, the reality is we're going into burning buildings.
Yeah, understood.
So, there's a finite number of folks that want to do that. Now, if we could get more off of our taxes, at our homes,
Yes.
that might open up the avenue for more members. I don't know, but
Do you know how many of your volunteers live in Irvington and pay Irvington taxes?
I don't want to
just-
say the number because it's.
Is it a majority or is it?
Oh, it's much more than
Vast
majority.
majority.
Yes, I was gonna say,
Okay, that's all I
closer to
wanted.
80%, but I don't want to be quoted
I'm
on
gonna
that.
say probably more than that.
I would.
But the ones that don't live in our thing, live in our fire district. So
Correct.
there you go.
And are the vast majority owners or renters?
More owners
More
now.
owners.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know, it
Well,
would be
I
a
think-
nice benefit. I
Yeah.
don't know that that's going to help.
Well, and I think you're making a good point too, that we have to look at recruitment, but also
Retention
retention.
is, I think, even a.
Right, and
a larger
especially when
component.
you're considering the training load and right, like that's a big.
We already got
commitment.
guys and ladies in the door.
Mhm.
So once you get them there, you have to keep them there.
Right.
Get them through the courses and have an incentive to stay here.
Well, and then think about it too, right? So even, if a tax incentive is not going to drive new members, right? We might be more likely to stay here if we're not
That's half the
paying.
Yeah.
Better to keep people than to have to recruit.
Yeah, it's much cheaper.
Along those same lines is, we all watch Chicago Fire, whatever
Take that with a grain of salt.
Please.
that is.
The
But
documentary.
I
Don't all watch
understand
that, but
that
yeah,
there,
yeah, I'm like-
a benefit for some fire companies is their recreational area, fitness rooms, whatever, as part of their fire hall. Is that?
So,
Do we want to find ours?
I know, right.
Don't, I mean.
But we're talking about what we're
We
potentially
ideally,
gonna
we
provide in
would,
the future.
that would be part of
Right,
that as
But
part of
there's
it.
isn't there a small discount on the JCC
Yeah,
membership?
But that's.
But
to our
obviously,
company.
we would rather keep them here.
Yeah, we pay for that out of the.
That out of the
donations we
company,
get
that's
from
not a
throughout the donation,
taxpayer.
We pay for that.
It's come up in other departments that affordability is a big issue. Like, do you think it would be helpful if we really made a point of finding ways to help get housing for fire department?
Let's stop right there. I've heard that story for 35 years.
I'm sure it's.
Okay, I heard it when it was up at the, next to the Catholic school. They were gonna build the houses. I heard it down at the Burnham building.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many firefighters in the Burnham building? 0. How many village employees in there? 0. So that one,
Doesn't mean it won't change though. I mean, just.
No,
it doesn't mean it will.
Well, it doesn't mean it will, but is there?
The
that
short answer would be
interest?
yes.
Would that make a big difference to people?
Yes,
We just had a member that
I would
moved
think it
to
would.
Tarrytown.
very active member.
I think they did email you.
Email us.
To try and, get some support, but obviously it's a lottery system.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just for that point,
Right.
the current project being proposed at 76 Project,
yes.
there are 5 units of affordable housing, which by law have to be a lottery open to the whole world.
Yeah, yep.
There are 5, maybe 6, depending on what they end up doing, that are what is called moderate income housing. And those, the village they require an income restriction. Absolutely. But the village is able to control who can possibly rent them. And
That's why I was asking about it.
Right.
This was like-
so this
Mhm.
moderate income, the village can choose to, in the future, require that for future developments to be larger
Yeah.
or smaller.
I think that would be a big
That's definitely.
plus if
yes.
that
And one of
could-
the,
could
when
happen.
the original stuff was done down at the library,
Yeah,
they set up a spreadsheet to, we were able to discriminate.
assist.
Careful there.
Say it into the microphone.
Trustee.
Is this a public?
We were able to favor local residents. And what they did was they set up a point system. Where if you were an employee, you got so many points. If you were a firefighter, you got so many
Right.
points, whatever. So that's something that the village board could choose to influence.
I mean, we're
Okay.
seriously looking at doing it a very real project that is in process.
I guess we're getting away from this whole thing right here, but
Yeah.
let's talk
Yeah.
what happened in Dobbs Ferry with that.
No, it's okay.
In Dobbs Ferry, they did that for their firemen and policemen down the, the
Livingston.
Livingston Manor. Okay, what happened was then the guys, they got in the fire department, they got their houses, and they stopped. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So you're talking about retention and stuff like that. What's to stop somebody joining the fire department? I'm in there. Yeah, I'm in now. I have no time for this.
You can also have a course of guidelines based on what they've given.
That'd be up to.
Right,
Yeah.
well, thank you for making us aware of that.
Yeah.
I think we're getting way, look, right,
That's
but
my
I think
Yeah.
that it's a
Let's move on.
good, yeah, I mean, I think, at least since I've been here, we've talked a lot about how needs are increasing and volunteerism is decreasing.
Yep.
And I think, there's efforts to make sure that, we're supporting, how can we get people interested and knowing and wanting to volunteer. And I think to your point, it's a very specific type of person who is going to be willing to go, to be an interior firefighter.
Yeah.
right?
It does feel like young folks. Like I work with
It
the
is a young
superintendent of
man's
the
game.
schools and
You
they
know,
seem
I can tell you that.
very interested.
Going into fires is strenuous.
But
Going into a fire is strenuous.
I'm sure it is.
Honestly, I think the biggest you know, we've gotten members that are older. I don't know. No. Like,
Oh, okay.
not kids, okay?
You know, no one in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That aren't kids, right? So my class or our, I mean, we've got some
Yeah.
big age gaps here, but regardless, if we start them in high school, honestly, that's a huge draw. And those kids come
Right.
home, even if it's, I get you for a year while you're a senior in
Yeah.
high school. I get you for a year. You're gonna come home and visit most likely for
Send you through
holidays.
the courses before you go off to college.
Right?
Get in
Like,
your head.
that's huge. So it is on my docket to get a hold of the
I've spoken to
superintendent.
her about it, and the superintendent's very interested in. high work.
It's also a change. The fire service in the past has been more generational, right? You know, my father did it, so I did it. I can guarantee my kids will do it.
Yeah.
It's changing a little bit away from that, I think. So.
They watch
Let's-
Chicago Fire on TV.
Back to the budget.
Yeah,
Oh my
all right.
gosh.
Let's
So-
jump back in.
Talk to her about,
You've
paying
said
for
Chicago
this.
Fire twice. You are no longer allowed to say Chicago Fire. That is it. You've used them up. You've used them up, David.
So we can skip over the key data points because I think, you know, we gave you the call volume. You can see that. You can see the number of hours are increasing year over year. So let's get into the firehouse, right? Capital projects. So if we just look at the firehouse right now, I'm gonna say the Main Street side is the A side, right? That's our front. I'm giving you folks in education and fire terminology, how we do this, right? The B side is gonna be kind of where that bakery is, next door. The C is the rear, so Josie can throw stuff at us. And D is the downside of Main Street. Next slide. So just to get into the approved projects, I'm not gonna go line by line, you'll see some of the pictures and whatnot. But as of 25-26, we have 301,000 allocated for 9-10 projects, whatever the number is. And then 26-27, we have 155 allocated. Do I think that's gonna be enough for what we want or what we need? No, but it's a starting, point. Okay? I already have the sidewalk, I'm working with the DPW, the sidewalk and
Basement
basement wall. The sidewalk's gonna be done in maybe next week, hopefully, depending on the weather. That's coming over budget. I already talked to Katie. I think, you know, worst comes to worst. We, you know, take funds from one project and put it over, you know, to something else, but I let you deal with the accounting.
The
part.
sidewalk is going over, but you said.
Mainly because it's in the back of the building. We can't get the truck back there, so they have to literally cart the cement back. For the wall, that is another piece, the rear of, I'll get into the wall in a second. Let's just keep it in order. Next slide. I think it's the windows,
window, yeah.
right? So as you know, or sorry, I'm making an assumption. We have single pane windows. They're cracked, they're broken, they don't open, they don't close, you know, exposing us to the elements and energy efficiency is just non-existent in that building. We allocated $150,000 after a study by the village 20 some odd years ago. I got in 30 years ago this April, and that project was probably one of the first projects that I was aware of. I increased the budget to about $250,000 last year. I don't remember if that was fully approved, but we can.
It was, we had the 169,000, which
And
was
then-
the old project, and then it got up to 219,000.
Okay. So again, do I think that's gonna be enough? I don't know, right? Prices have gone up.
Can I ask a couple questions on that? Is, how much of the, problems, are non-energy related? Just having proper ventilation, being able to open them and close them?
There's windows upstairs that don't even open and
Yeah.
close.
Right. So how much of that is the problem versus,
Your
the
biggest
fact that they're
issue-
single panes and they're not good?
Your biggest issue is they're not energy efficient and we're throwing money out. Or out the windows literally every day.
And it goes with another, we put a stopgap on it by putting a coating over the windows to keep the UV rays
Right.
from deteriorating our gear. Excuse me about stuttering on that one. But you look at our gear, how much does it cost per set of gear?
Over 550. 1,000.
It isn't only gonna stop, it helps it a little, quite a little bit, but it's not, 5,000 times 48. You guys can do the math on that one much quicker than me. How much would you wanna keep spending on it,
So here, the biggest question is, we got the go ahead to move forward with the windows. As a taxpayer, as a department head, awesome. Great. However, as a taxpayer / department head, do we really want to spend $250,000 if we're not going to be there? Yeah. Or even if we are going to be there, is it worth spending that money and the whole building might change? So let's just make the assumption that we stay there. Is the layout going to be the same, and is it going to be conducive to the windows that we put in and replace?
That's what I was leading up to.
And
My
that's a
question
decision for
is
you guys.
But here's the thing to think about, right?
Something rather than replacing all of the windows now, to have a plan to replace enough to improve things.
You're not gonna, you need to do this, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it all for once. I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
3 windows here and there, because it just doesn't make sense, right? I look to the board, I'm not pulling the trigger to spend it. Yes, I was given the approval, but I'm not gonna pull that trigger. I need you guys to just help us through this, right? And I don't wanna put the decision on you because you don't know what the plan is based on the facility.
But, hold on, our timing, right? So our timing, we're in the midst
Yeah.
of the planning, right? And I think what's the end for the
Late
report?
summer.
Late summer, early fall, they should have.
Yeah, pretty
data
good and
analyzed
good
and
data,
So
right?
we don't need to spend it now. We
So,
can
right,
obviously wait.
correct. I
right?
think that what we probably need to do is kind of wait for this assessment, see where we are, and then.
But once you do get that first assessment, make sure this is priority because we've been waiting very long for this.
But when you say it's priority, if we're gonna knock down the whole building, then we're not gonna do that, right? We're gonna
Agreed.
do, so it's not that it's not a priority. I just wanna be super clear that what we have been trying to say and be really clear about is anything that is a priority, that is a safety concern, that you feel needs to happen. I think we've been saying very loud and clear, we're not saying wait on that, right? What I'm hearing you say is very clearly, again, I think as a taxpayer, it makes perfect sense. I'm not gonna tell you because this is approved, yes, I'm gonna do the windows. Like, I'm thinking, yes, this can wait. I'm just hearing what you're saying,
No, you're
right?
spot
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
And therefore, if this project is happening and we're having something in kind of the relatively, we're not talking 3 years from now, we're talking this year, then we'll make a decision at that time based on what the data tells us and where we think this is gonna go. But I want to be super clear that, and I hope that you all hear me because we've been saying it a lot, we want to make sure that any safety, emergency repair, like, we're not putting that off. We
Fix the
shouldn't put
sidewalk.
that off, right?
Mhm.
Anything that compromises the safety, like if you have a broken sidewalk, right, that somebody could just like trip and kill themselves. We're not saying, we may change the building, so let's not do it. So, but that's the analysis
balancing
that,
act,
right.
And I'm glad you touched on that because, look, as a department head, yeah, we can change the windows, right? We have the approval to do it, right? Does it make the most sense if we're gonna, whatever, the summer have this study that gives us a direction, and at that point, if we have a direction for wherever it is, it's silly for us to put any effort into that right now, right? So I don't wanna harp on it, but
Yeah.
I think we're all on the same page. It just, there are things that you'll see in the presentation that, again, like, we need a decontamination area, right?
Right.
However, again, do we spend the 140? I mean, to me, like, to prevent us from getting cancer, I will spend as much money as you allow us to spend so we don't get it.
I think that's where we're at too.
That's
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we're at.
yeah. But it's also, again, we can configure something, maybe it's a temporary something,
Right.
and that's where we need the help
Right.
of architecture and engineers and
I think
construction
I
folks.
think we're on the same page, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's super
So
clear.
let's move on
that-
from windows.
There's
to
definitely a few of these, it's
decontamination.
like hard to tell though. I'm curious what you
Yeah,
say. Some
yeah,
of them
yeah.
seem like they could be safety, or it could be cosmetic.
Yeah,
I
so
think it's a little bit of both, but when you get into the like higher price of items, the
Yeah,
question
We'll look into
becomes,
that. We'll get- yeah.
So decontamination, right? We've touched on that. We have approval for 140,000. Do I think that's gonna be enough? It depends on how it's configured, right? If we use the existing bathroom in the basement, The challenge is you need to have a cold zone, medium zone, and a hot zone, right? So it's really three separate areas. So the hot zone, I'm going in and I literally just came off the truck and we were in a fire and, I need to get rid of that stuff, right? Medium zone, and the cold zone. So ultimately the cold zone is I can go home, I can hug my family and not have to worry. Right now, all the toxins that we're, in a fire with, I'm bringing that in my personal car.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it into my house. If I have my grocery bags in the trunk of my car, my gears in the car as a chief, my kid's eating the same stuff I am, and he's going to get what I have. Ultimately, we're, 1 in 10 firefighters has cancer. Luckily, Village Sports and the state supports getting us a cancer benefit, so we do pay that every year. So God forbid anybody gets any type of cancer in the fire service.
Not doing this job to get the benefit of having cancer.
Of course not, but it's, it's, I hate to say it, it's something for our family, right? Because we're not gonna be here.
And unfortunately, we've had to use that.
So, we have a construction manager that's getting, hopefully hired in the near term that can look at, help us evaluate. I think when we get the, information back from that individual or the firm, whoever it is, then we collectively have the conversation of, does it make the most sense to do this now? Again, right? Because the construction manager might come in and say, I need an architect. Okay, so now we got to draw that up. And then does it make and the timing, summer, I'm going to say the facilities plan would have a baseline or an indication, direction. Maybe, we hold off until then. Again, I don't want to hold off because God forbid I get cancer. First thing I'm doing is going to Charles and saying, we got a problem, right? We don't have what we need.
I don't think we can hold off on some element of decontamination.
Agreed. I think we just,
Because
holistically-
even if we come up with a plan, it's gonna take time.
we totally recognize that and we just need to figure out what's
If
the
you're
best for
totally
the
remodeling
current
that
environment.
building, the only thing that's not gonna take time is if we, collectively decide to do nothing with the fire department, which I don't think it's the answer. So we're either gonna do something where it exists or do something somewhere else.
Yep.
That do something, that's not going to be completed for,
We get it.
2, 3, 4 years, depending on what level of project we're talking about. So we can't put out decontamination for 2 or 3 or 4 years.
I'm gonna add, it's not just carcinogens, it's biological stuff.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Oh, I
we
know,
have-
yeah.
we have a lot of hazmats and stuff like that. We do,
We've taken blood
All-
off our gear
all the time, yes,
on
like-
on the sidewalks,
yes,
Yeah.
We've literally stripped down on the apron.
coming back from the sawmill.
So,
That's not pretty.
Anyway,
So we
let's
need
keep
to do
going.
that, and I guess it will be the engineer / architect designer who will determine, how much of the cost is the architecture of the space and how much of the cost is equipment. And maybe the equipment can be such that, we can take that out and move it to whatever the final configuration is, maybe not. And there may be different levels of equipment that we can decide that the initial level that we do immediately is less expensive than the other, or maybe we don't, but that's why we need that professional.
Just to be clear, the plan that we've discussed is bringing in a construction manager. The purpose is not just to oversee the project, but help us identify which trades, which experts we need to bring in to design what we need to build. I think the chief has an idea about what a contamination room looks like based upon what fire standards are. But we need somebody to help us do that, to help us run that project. Because it's an all volunteer fire crew, and I certainly am that. So that's kind of the plan, is this person will help us develop the bid specs, identify and interview the specialists, and develop and execute that plan. So ultimately, while this is going on, that project will be churning along.
And
it'll be
that's
done right.
not wasting money.
No, it's definitely
And that-
valuable.
even if we do a new building somewhere else, we need the contamination unit in that, and it's the same information. And ideally, this person has done 1 or 2 of these things before, unlike any of us.
Yes.
All right, so next, I'm gonna gloss over this one just because we're already in the process, right? So these are the sidewalks. or the sidewalk in the back of the firehouse along with
last
some
step's
of
a
the
doozy.
already working on that. So again, this is gonna be, over budget, but working with Katie to address that, so I'm not concerned there unless Katie is.
No, I mean, in total, you allotted the 301,000
Yeah.
for the building safety upgrade, so that's pretty much the,
Or
yeah,
the
the
budget, yeah, yeah.
ballpark we're working.
Next is the exterior basement wall. As you can see, it's holding on by probably a hair. This is gonna be a little more challenging because we do have, the police department has a shed that butts up against that wall. So we gotta just figure out logistically how to move that shed out of the way in order to actually redo that wall.
What do they have in that shed?
We have stuff too.
We have stuff, they have, I don't know,
Bikes,
bikes,
yeah.
yeah, there's other equipment in there, so.
Shared
One way or another, I'm not worried, we'll just have to figure out how to get it out of the way.
And to be clear, the facilities planning study isn't just looking at the brick and mortar buildings, it's looking at the storage,
Yep.
interior and exterior. So we've chronicled all of that, what's in roughly. what's in
Yep.
those structures.
Next is, engine 178, excuse me. Stabilization under the apparatus, on the apparatus floor. My only concern here is, and when you open it up, is it gonna be enough? I feel like we're gonna have a can of worms, but hopefully not. We've addressed some structural issues in the past or stabilization issues, so hopefully it's confined to that, but we'll see. So keep going. Elevator, hiring an engineer for this. Again, this goes back, like, we can get the engineer now, right? Tell us what we need. The installation of that would not obviously be this year. We'd have to just figure out financially when we would slot that in, but it also depends on where we're gonna sit, right? Now, one thing I do want to call out though is we are not ADA compliant, obviously. We have older members that have to climb, that can't climb 3 floors of stairs, so they can't even attend any of the events, meetings, trainings that we have, which, to be perfectly frank, stinks. We would want them and we need them there. Just think carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs, right? Or a case of soda or something like that. That's a pain in the neck to do 3 flights, right?
It's just common courtesy. You have a guy who we'll take
50 years.
Guy who put 50-something years into the thing, now he's shut out because he can't make the stairs. To me, that's just rude, okay, and I find that,
Do we have risks associated too with a building that's not in compliance with ADA?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
A
Something
lot
happens,
of our
then-
buildings have that problem, and that's
Right.
why one of the reasons why this facility
Yeah.
planning is. very-
Almost all of
Building
our,
this building
I mean,
we're in right
yes.
now.
this
Yeah,
building
correct.
is not ADA compliant. The rec building is not ADA compliant. I mean, we have this problem.
Yeah.
So, my initial thought on this is, I would love to at least get a couple months with the facilities planning to get the understanding of where we might be going, before I even spend $50,000. But I understand the need to deal with this. Is there any kind of temporary solution whereby you can be doing some things? The senior center is empty after 3 o'clock, 7 days a week.
We've used it, for.
When the fire department was flooded from the roof, we used it. But that's our space up there and
I know.
that's,
That's the home,
I totally agree with you.
you think about it, all of our equipment's there.
Right, yeah.
If we're doing training, we're gonna take not just the engines, but all the other equipment, we're gonna bring it down to the rec center, then like, at the end of the day, it's, shit, I'm tired, I'm sorry about that. I'm tired and stuff like that, we just did the training for the last 2 hours, now we gotta, all the stuff all the way back up and put it all away. Yeah, I'm just saying,
I get it.
you're already asking a lot of volunteers, now you're asking, just throw another layer on top of them.
I mean, I think your point is valid if you have conversations with, BBB and they think they're, leaning one way versus the other, then look, we can expedite some of this.
You're very involved in that discussion. It's not just us and BB.
No, we
You're
initially,
involved.
but they're still compiling everything, so.
Yeah.
Right, and one of the basic considerations with BBB is, does everything that you want fit in that space? And if
Look,
it,
we don't want the Taj Mahal.
yeah,
We've never asked for the Taj Mahal.
You don't?
Well, I mean,
Dream big.
marble everything, no. You know, we've always talked like, let's just square off the bill, right? But, you know, let's let the
so
study.
that's an
play out.
option and we can figure that out. But again, we have to look at what that is and then you're part of that decision making, just like we are. And we have to sell it to the community because they're gonna pay for it at some level. Once all of those factors are balanced, then we know which direction we're going.
Mhm.
So an
I don't disagree.
elevator, those things are expensive. And
The elevators?
yeah, the elevator itself.
Actually, we were talking about
Yeah.
before, I was just looking into this with
That's what
Otis
you- that's what you
elevator.
get.
They're not as expensive as you think.
Oh, if you're doing just an ADA thing?
Oh, for the elevators?
Yeah.
No, they're actually, we looked at the low, from Otis, which you all know is a pretty reputable company.
Right.
If we look at a low lift hydro elevator, they're already pre-designed and pre-engineered and stuff like that. And you know, the lift beam is what the architect will be putting in for us anyway. I know it's not, you're talking about 200,000. Really? No, a low lift, which goes up, which gives you 4 stops with a 26.6 foot like lifting capability. And that was just right off the Otis M website.
Okay, not
I'm saying,
Okay.
And to be honest with you, you know, with the amount of people that we have here, we probably spent that much money just, you know, talking over the, you know, last
Yes.
hour. So it's not like a crazy expensive item,
yeah,
but so. But just moving on to the natural gas migration. So I've already talked to Todd on the DPW. He reached out to Con Edison. He's gonna get that ball rolling shortly for us, so at least we can get the migration or mitigation to gas piped into the firehouse. From there, then we can look at converting our boiler to a gas boiler. When I put the boiler in a number of years ago, I already had it queued up for gas, so really it's gonna just say connecting things at that point. And that would just require us to change, you know, our stove and all that stuff, but you know, that's
So
Nothing
your
in the
current
gas.
boiler can burn gas.
correct. Yep, so
Sweet.
we
Okay.
built that.
So this
And
is- this is a
preemptively
no-brainer.
knowing that we
Yep.
wanted this.
Yeah, yeah.
We wanted it years ago, but
It's only 60,000.
When they opened up Main Street, that would have been a good time,
Sorry,
right?
there's a cost savings when you do it.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm sure it'll pay for
It's
itself.
Digging it up.
Yeah.
Without,
Yeah.
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Okay.
Next, is the generator, so getting an engineer to, you know, give us some detail around a generator. For those that don't know, we do not have a generator across the street, so if we go down, or Main Street goes down, we're not connected to the police station. So, you know, we'd manually have to open up the, apparatus bay doors, to get them up and down manually is, you know, you need a number of folks
Very heavy.
there. You need to make sure you don't break glass. You know, there's a lot of factors here. Our computer systems wouldn't operate, charging the apparatus wouldn't work, or wouldn't, you know, there would be no charging the apparatus. I'm not even getting into, you know, the heating system or cooling system, right? It's literally just basic operations of the fire department. You know, our equipment, you know, for running out calls, you know, during a storm, and that's typically where some of these issues pop up. We're dead in the water. Luckily, knock on wood, Main Street is relatively stable, at least where we are. But, you know, you've seen the storms lately and the flooding and just the power outages for days and days.
I live off Main.
Yeah.
So,
Most of us live around.
3 of us do.
but that also goes in with the gas job. Because once you have the generator in, you run the generator off
yeah.
natural gas too.
Right.
You don't want us running, they don't want us running it off diesel,
No, no,
or they
no,
don't want
no.
us running off gas, you know, you have to go with natural gas. Unlimited supply for
So-
unlimited hours.
I would also think that the actual physical piece of equipment, even if you were staying in that building and redesigning it and decided it would be better to locate it somewhere else, that's, the big cost is the piece of the equipment.
True.
yeah.
So if you could relocate it
Oh,
to
absolutely.
your improved building, whether it's there or elsewhere.
We'd likely only need certain phases, you know, it.
Right. So this
Not
would
gonna look
not
at
be
generating the
a throwaway item
No, not at all.
if you move.
Correct. So ultimately, like, get the gas piped in this 25, 26 year, and then 26, 27 actually install it. Again, by that time, we should know what we're doing collectively, so, you know.
And it still may be a good idea to put the
Yeah.
generator in
Regardless, that can
because
always be moved out.
the actual another building might be
Oh.
2-3 years down the road.
Yeah.
Well, that leads to the whole like, oh, let's go in circles. Now, do you want to put a sidewalk in before you dig it up to put a gas line in? No, how many times we want to
I
do
don't
more in
think
these
so.
circles?
I don't think so, because I think what we're saying is we have this plan that's already happening. We're gonna be making decisions
Yes.
coming up, so.
No, you were just
Yeah.
talking about we were just talking a minute ago about doing sidewalks because they're unsafe.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna put new sidewalks we're talking about doing next week.
But it's not, but we're talking about timing, right? So if you're talking about, I think it's a discussion of what does it look like, right? We're gonna get some information sort of in the next couple of months. And then we have a conversation with some actual data as to what can wait and what shouldn't wait, right? Like, I think, again, we're gonna think about safety, which I think we're not gonna wanna compromise. And then we're gonna think about cost and what costs we're gonna balance for taxpayers, right? As all of us, I think, here are taxpayers in Irvington, we wanna be smart about that as well, right? We're not gonna say, let's like not pay attention to these plans that might come and change what we might think of doing or not doing. Let's have that data and then make decisions. And we're talking about not a long time, right? We're talking this data is coming in the next couple of months.
And that's what's
yeah.
what's throwaway work versus, that's
Correct.
worth, you know, what's worth throwaway work
Yeah.
versus what's not.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what it comes down
Sidewalk
to.
is
Or should we,
It's
yeah,
not.
or should we think about putting a
Budget for
conduit right in the
$12,000.
sidewalk right now, so in case we do put a gas line in, we can put it right through the conduit so you don't have to tear it up again.
That would be a nice idea if we put in a piece of conduit in the sidewalk.
Yeah, so
If
you know,
knew that
to me,
much.
that's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know, but sorry, I digressed again.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I
well,
mean, I
good
think
point.
these are the kinds of conversations you have to have, right? What
Yeah.
makes sense to kind of, in the short run, short term versus long term. Sometimes you don't have a short term solution, but you can't compromise safety, right? And you're just gonna have to eat the money. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, that happens.
Oh, believe me, I'm trying
And
not to
as
be
a
nitty-gritty.
taxpayer, I'm willing to eat $12,000. I'm not willing to eat $500,000.
Of course, yeah,
Correct.
That's,
exactly.
it's all a matter of scale.
Yep. And on the next fire escape stabilization, that is already being discussed with DPW. They were gonna allocate someone either this week or maybe next week, depending on the weather, to start this up and working through it and then getting some new stairs that we need.
The posts were in pretty good shape. There's nothing to be done with that, just the stairs.
Next, actually, I think that might be the last
Stucco.
slide is the stucco. So, you know, look, there's getting the engineer to come in and figure out what needs to be done, or maybe it's, you know, changing the stucco to something else or not. 7,000 grand scheme of things, not a big deal. You know, I think what we do out of that is, you know, up for interpretation or discussion based on, you know, wants, needs, and or, you know, executing on, you know, fixing the siding all around the building worth it if we're going to, who knows what, right? But I mean, the plus side here is that's an engineer that comes in and takes a look at everything, determines what we need, and then from there, the study will be hopefully getting to a turning. You know, the one thing that I do wanna just, you know, close out on, you know, Charles, Danny and I had this, you know, I would say a debate, probably when you first got in, Charles, of, you know, who should be running point on all these projects, right? We are 100% volunteer. We're not sitting at our desk all day to call contractors and call architects and engineers and, you know, call them 5 times because they don't call us back and meet them here and do all of that. Historically, and look, I work in corporate and I work on transformation and transforming businesses all day long. So for me to come and, you know, change the way we work, great. However, I gotta say, you know, luckily Charles is, you know, adapting to the fact that in the past regime, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. the village would just take care of it, right? If I need a new something or need to fix something, the village would take care of it. You know, we had a very lengthy conversation and I perfectly honest, it got a little heated. But I think we're on the track of recognizing the fact that for volunteers that, you know, spend 400 hours a year, full-time job for the three of us to then go track down folks to do the work, it's just not feasible. So if we need to get a part-time headcount to corral the architects, to corral the construction folks, to corral the, you know, needs or what have you, we have to have that conversation. So I want to be very upfront with you. We literally would go to Larry in the past and or Ed and say, I need a new staircase because it's whatever broken. It's done. Right? So if we are going to change how we operate, we got to think through, you know, how much more time can I cut out of my corporate or my day job, more or less try and go to my son's swim meets, right? I'm getting tapped. I know these guys are getting tapped. There isn't much more that we can give. We're already giving our lives to the village and the department. So, you know, just keep that in mind when we're talking about these things, that we don't have the bandwidth to farm all these projects and find the contractor, the construction managers, the whatever it is that we.
One question I would ask the board on this. When I did in front of the concrete slab in front of the firehouse, I was able to use Doug Hahn, the village engineer. Can't he be cost as part of the job too?
Well, it's that and contracts for,
Yeah.
let's say, contractors, right?
That's what Doug did most of that stuff for me.
We don't have a village contractor on retainer per se right now, from what I understand. We let that lapse. That to me is like, if we had a contractor on you know, retainer, it's a no-brainer. We just farm out the projects.
Where are we with that? Do we?
So we have to identify the project and then that gets bid out. You can't just do like a blanket, like we have a contractor on call, like they get every job
Right.
for the year. It has to be a
Bids.
competitive bid
Bid,
process per project.
In the past, you know, Ed Marin was sort of a general contractor for a lot of projects in the village.
Yeah, on top of that, he was an estimator. He was,
Estimator.
He's our fire inspector also.
Right, yeah. So, we have a little problem that, you know, that's seemingly not working like it did in the past. I wish it did, because he's very competent in doing that. Has done a lot. The O'Hara Nature Center, I'm sure you're aware of, the financing for that was only for the materials. The entire building of that building was done with volunteer labor. And Ed was basically the general contractor, who went out and, you know, twisted people's arms to go up there and do the electrical work or do whatever it is. You may even have been up there working on it. Exactly.
Yes.
So, you know, we've done that. Also, we've got Doug as the town engineer, but he costs us a fair amount of money. But we're also using, what's his name fairly regularly, who is very inexpensive.
Jim DeCara from,
No.
is that who you're talking about?
I've seen his name on some of our projects. He's a local engineer. Anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the bottom line is we have to be able to bid out these projects, and I think we'll kind of have to figure out a way to do that, right? I think we have to kind of stay in line with the policies like that we have in place that go across the village, across all departments. And we have to do this in accordance with New York State law.
right. I mean, I think the nuance to it is that not all projects are created equal. Like a big project, you have to bid out. Yes, it's complicated. Bid spec writing is very complicated. RFPs to a certain extent can be complicated too. Certain professional services you don't need to go get an RFP for. You can identify a contractor you call, same as you do in your house. If you had a leaky faucet, you call 3 plumbers, you get 3 quotes, you go with the lowest reasonable product, and that's how you proceed. You know, so
I want to just make sure we don't go lowest in all
well, I said
cases.
lowest reasonable.
Okay, because we've had that issue
Oh, yeah.
and
So
we
have all
were
of us.
literally with bucket brigade with our roof and it destroyed the upstairs.
Yeah.
So
The one question I might ask is I've realized clearly that you guys are an overload and that's not your skill set. Is there maybe one of your volunteer base people that is based in construction
No.
or knows anything in that area?
That would have been fair to ask them too. I think though, I think it'd be unfair. You ask them to be a fireman. Hey, why don't they, it's like if you ask like Joe Clark to come and like do a free job up at the firehouse for Greenfield Plumbing. I don't think that would be fair.
Well, no,
Yes,
they're doing the work, no,
Yes.
but I know, with the Woods Committee and the ONC, they have volunteers up there that have specialty and they're going out and looking and getting bids for different things and looking for grants and doing that work. But it's, it's because those particular volunteers have that as their professional background. So,
I can't ask the folks to do even more.
And some of the stuff we're talking about is on a different scale than that as well.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about the smaller things that, maybe involves, calling 3 contractors to figure out, who to paint a fire escape with. But if you don't have that, then we have to figure it out somehow with the village and get the people that can do that.
If it's okay, I'd like to kind of wrap up, not because I don't think this is important, but we have a presentation as well for the Project Mover.
Yeah.
And Katie needs to get through her, so if that's okay with
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, yeah.
We'll wrap up and promise to do it again.
Katie, you don't want to talk to us anymore?
She had to talk to me Friday.
So I want to say thank you because, just putting this all together and making it very clear and just being willing to have dialogue with us, I think it's really important.
Yeah, look, I think we just have to be honest, right? Like, there's some, I'm not gonna say big price tags, when you look at the grand scheme of things, but they're large enough that we just need to collectively figure out, are we going to deal with throwaway work? Is it okay for some throwaway work? Yes, but
Right.
all of that, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I look to you folks to, help us with that.
Yeah, and I think, for us, the line is always, anything that's health, safety and related.
Yeah.
Now that's not a bright line, right? Sidewalk is health and safety related, right?
Yep.
But, that's our guideline.
It's helpful to have the conversation to understand that. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily assumed the sidewalk was in that category, but I think it is. So
I'm not sure the stucco on all 4 sides is in that category.
windows
Maybe it is
maybe
on the
though.
front.
Listen, I can make a great argument for all of it, but I want to be realistic.
Yeah.
We had some stucco work done a couple of years ago outside the building. Because the pieces were falling down right over the front door,
Yeah.
okay? And some of the stuff he's talking about is right over the bay doors and stuff like that, so like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna put a little bit of let's get that done.
We're right, yeah. But all I'm saying is maybe it's not on all 4 sides of the building, and maybe it's not the entire building.
Yeah. And that 35,000, I think I had in for stuccoing the rear, that's just the rear of the building, right? So there's other parts that depending on what happens with the building, do we need to do it now or we could do it later?
But if that happens to be above the door that you go in and out, yeah, that needs to be done.
Well, yeah, no offense, I'm not gonna wait for that.
Right,
Stuff that's
exactly.
emergent that we have to do right
Okay, I think we're on the same page here.
Okay.
We just don't wanna look like we're wasting the money too,
Yeah.
you know?
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Very much.
And my wife says I'm cheap. Okay.
No, it's fair. We don't want to like.
And that's not our view.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you next week, I'm sure.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, see you then.
It's been like 2 months, right?
Thank you, guys.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you.
How you doing? How you doing?
Thank you.
Oh, buddy, so?
All right. Okay, back to the budget. So we went over the tax cap calculation. Now we'll go over the highlights of the items that are gonna frame the 2026 budget. Yes. Okay. So the first item is salary. So both village union contracts, that's the PBA contract and the CSEA contract, they both expire as of May 31st, 2026. So since the successor agreements have not yet been negotiated, no specific salary increases are included in the departmental budget line items. I did reflect current salaries on each of those lines with adjustments for the current contractual step increases. And then to account for potential wage adjustments, funding has been set aside on the contingency line for potential salary increases for both union and non-union staff. So the 305,000 figure there is an estimate at this time for unsettled contracts plus step increases and then current salaries.
In contingency.
It's a combination,
Right.
so that's the increase in total. So some's in contingency and then the step increases would be on the specific lines. Alright, so next up is health insurance, which is our biggest increase. The health insurance premiums are set on a calendar year basis. The January 2026 rate for a family plan increased by 8.79% compared to the previous year's increase, which was only 0.02%. The January 2026 individual plan rates increased by 8.92% compared to only 2.34% in the prior year. So based on this information, the rates are set for the first 7 months of the 26-27 fiscal year. The budget provides for an estimated 9% increase in rates for January through May of 2027. I use 9% since individual plan increases have ranged from about 2.3% all the way to 12.4%. And from 0.02% to 14.9% over the past 4 years. So on average, that's about 8%. So I used 9% for estimate purposes. So the net impact on the tax levy is 244,000. That's the increase. And as a point of information, a current family plan without an employee contribution is $43,965 per year. And an individual plan without an employee contribution is $19,338 per year. The next category is general liability insurance and our workers' comp insurance. So we're coming off of a 2-year workers' comp contract that expires May 31st, 2026. And our general liability policy also expires at the end of May. So we're still waiting on an indication from our insurance carrier on what the increase or decrease will be. Just as a placeholder at this point, I put in 10%. I really don't anticipate it being that high. So this is, absolute worst case scenario at this point. And then we'll update those numbers as we get an indication from the carrier.
Has our usage of those insurances been high, low, or average?
There has been experience over the past year or so, and we did have a couple worker comp claims, so that may lead to increases. Right, the next area which is another high increase is retirement. So the New York State local retirement system employer pension contribution rates are determined based on the state pension funds, investment performance, and actuarial assumptions recommended by the state's actuary. In addition to investment performance, other factors that impact rates are salaries, legislative changes such as reforms to Tier 6, and member retirement rates. So consistent with prior years, contribution rates released by the state continue to show significant cost hikes. For the village, ERS, which is the non-police, Tier 4 rates, which is still the largest payroll sector for the village, those rates increase from 19.5% to 21.3%. So that's per dollar earned. That's the amount that also gets contributed to the retirement system. And PFRS, which is the police and fire retirement, tier 6 contribution rates increased from 28.5% to 31.9%, and tier 2 contribution rates increased from 36.7% to 40.7%. We are seeing a tier shift in the police membership, with more members now in tier 6 than tier 2, and this is due to members retiring, which does result in a lower contribution rate. In the prior year, the tier 2 makeup was 41.4% of the pensionable earnings versus 34.9% in the current year. And then also in ERS, there was a tier shift in the tier 4 membership, which is 52.7% this year versus 54.4% in the past. So the total impact of all of these increases across all funds is $146,000. And for the general fund, it's the $132,200. So the property tax cap regulations do allow for contribution rates which increase in excess of the 2 percentage points to be excluded from the tax levy limit. So this is what resulted in the exclusion of the $30,716 in the property tax cap calculation. The next item is debt service. So payments on the borrowings for capital projects are what makes up the debt service budget. The village issued $2,351,000 of ban anticipation notes in December of 2025 at a 2.89% net interest rate. And then we also have outstanding bond principal as of June 1st, 2026, which is $18.69 million. We have debt service fund balance, which we continue to use to offset the serial bond debt payments. The balance is due to the completion of many capital projects below budget in prior years, plus interest earned and premiums received. And the surplus of these funds are required to be used to offset the future debt service payments. So this will allow for the appropriation of debt service fund balance of $520,300 in the 26-27 budget, which is primarily due to the bond issuance premium we received on the 2024 bond issuance. So then based off all of this, our debt service payments in this budget actually result in a $130,320 decrease in the general fund budget and a $19,471 decrease in the water fund budget. We have a savings of $29,000 in MTA tax. So effective July 1st, 2025, local government employers in the district zone 2, which includes Westchester County, are no longer subject to this tax. So this will result in the $29,000 budget savings. And then also this year we'll have a $26,500 surplus on this expense line since we don't have to pay that tax anymore. So now on to the revenues. So the state's largest source of unrestricted aid to local governments is AIM funding, and that's remained mostly flat and not kept pace with inflation for more than a decade. So that causes a challenge for local governments. In addition, our interest in earnings. So the expectation is that there will be a decrease in interest rates compared to the 4% included in our current year budget. We currently have a $7 million 4% 1-year CD that matures at the end of March. Initial budget calculations assume an interest rate of at least 3% in the 26-27 fiscal, which will result in a revenue decrease of $90,000. And this number can also fluctuate based on new CD rates as we progress through the budget process. Utilities tax, this revenue line can be increased by 22,000, and this is a 1% tax that is levied on utilities gross operating income within the village. The 86 main, that's rental income that we receive based on the rental of units in the building across the street. So currently, only the first and second floor are being rented out. So I budgeted this line based on current rentals. So that would result in a 12,000 decrease on this budget line from what's currently budgeted there. The cell tower revenues, one of the T-Mobile tenants, which are part of, which is a sublessee on the tower that we received the rentals on. They decommissioned their space, so that would reduce the village's share of cell tower revenues by approximately 46,000. We can also take into account the offset of annual escalations based on lease agreements, which increase from year to year. So in total, this revenue line would be decreased by 36,000. Sales tax revenue for the second half of 2025 is relatively consistent with the second half of 2024. So based on current projections, along with the Westchester County sales tax distribution, which were included in the county's 2025 budget, this line can be increased by 20,000. Mortgage tax, the mortgage tax revenue distribution for the first half of the year was up 26% from the prior year. So to plan for a continued increase in mortgage tax revenues, this line was increased by 45,000 to a total of 185,000. And then any other departmental specific revenue streams will be examined closer during the budget process. As far as fund balance usage, last year's budget included the usage of 288,000 of fund balance, which is consistent with the past couple years. And as far as fund balance projections, unassigned fund balance as of May 31st was 8.9 million, or 39% of the subsequent year's budget. During this fiscal year, 1.4 million was appropriated during the capital budget process towards capital projects, and an additional 450,000 was appropriated for the facilities planning. So if all else remains equal, our current unassigned fund balance is about 7.1 million, or 30.9% budget. So in total, what all that comes down to is, with the initial budget changes, we have an estimated levy increase at this point of about $648,713 compared to the increase allowed for the tax cap of $756,498. So we're currently below the cap by $107,786. This obviously doesn't take into account any departmental requests at this point.
Which will be more than that
Yes.
So what are the marching orders to the department heads?
So they were all given a budget request form, which is modeled after last year's approved budget. So they weren't given any directions as far as, you can increase your budget by this amount or you have to decrease your budget. We just asked them to come up with well thought out, well supported budget requests. And then I also attached to the agenda the upcoming budget workshop schedule. We'll post that on the website so everyone is aware. The first budget workshop will be the library, and that's on February 2nd. And this is just the schedule that will allow us to reach the May 1st budget adoption deadline.
Let me ask one question about that. We've got Rexon Park. Last year, I thought we were separating out a section of that for the police committee. Are we still doing that? And is that at the same time?
Yeah, so with the packet I gave Maureen in the Park and Recs, the Irvington Woods is one of the departments within that. So it is scheduled for the same night. I don't know how they want to approach, like who presents what section of it, but as far as the scheduling, it would all be in that night.
Okay. I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much.
Lots of work, Katie. Thank you. And I must say, you descriptions make it understandable.
Okay, good. I'm glad I tried to make it like.
I've listened to other people that I get lost very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I was gonna say, I
apologies.
wonder, one thing, I remember last year, Eileen, you made it a point to say that we would invite public comment during work sessions for the budget, that even though we normally don't do.
Yeah.
We want to resident feedback.
Yeah, I think we should do that again as well.
Okay.
Because otherwise people have to wait until there's a meeting. So we will allow
Crazy,
people to
yeah.
ask questions during, even if it's, whether it's a work session or a regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also directed the department heads that we're gonna try and get the budget documents out to the board about a week before budget hearing, so that if there's any questions that they could maybe prepare for ahead of time. They can have
I
like a
think that's
heads
very
up.
helpful. Yeah.
Apologies for the delay. Could the team who's presenting the Project Mover, please introduce yourselves and let me know if you want to share the screen. Project Mover, are you prepared to proceed?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I don't know if you can see me or not either, but
No, yeah, you gotta activate your video.
let's see here.
You see your name.
See my name. All right. Not sure it's letting me do that. You might just have to deal with hearing me, not seeing me. I don't see I have an option. I know you guys have had a long night, so I can be brief and you'll just have to imagine me. So my name's Creighton Randall. I'm the CEO with a small company called Mobility Development. We support car sharing and bike sharing programs, particularly in small, mid-sized communities. Our roots are in upstate New York. I'm based myself in Hartford, Connecticut. My wife grew up in Yonkers, so I know the Westchester villages, towns pretty well. We're supporting a program called Project Mover, which started in 2022, first in the village of Austining, and expanded last year to 5 other river towns. It's funded by NYSERDA through a competitive grant. So a couple years in planning. First real full year was last year, and the 5 villages that and towns that expanded to were Dobbs Ferry, Cherrytown, Austining, Sleepy Hollow, Croton on Hudson, and the town of Austining. So, in all, it's about a 250 bike system currently. It is funded through a NYSERDA grant through 2026. And so our task in this work is to kind of think about the longevity of the program, how it might expand, and how villages, towns might start to kind of take some share of the burden of what's a public bike share system. So yeah, wanted to share a little bit about how it's going so far, how we think it might expand, and we have been meeting in person with the existing villages over the course of the last couple of months, just checking in on seeing how it's going. by and large, I would say almost across the board, the villages are very happy with it. I think there are some villages that are ready to throw plenty of resources at it. So others that are sort of new to the system, saying, let's sort of take a look at what next year looks like before we commit to 2027. But so far, so good in total. July was the first of 25 was the first real month of full deployment. So we don't have a fully deployed full year of data, but for 2025, we saw about 10,000 trips and across those 250 bikes. We're expecting somewhere between 15 and 20,000 trips in 2026. Let's see, what else can I share? Our conversations so far with villages have been around getting to kind of almost like a three-legged stool of future development of the program. The first being users that pay to use the system. So generally, users of these programs cover about 20%, maybe 30% of the cost of the program. Municipalities or public sector covering another third, and typically you see sponsorship covering another third of the program. So we have a number of partners on the program, a few consulting organizations, Nelson Nygaard and CityFi are those. There's a nonprofit called Shared Mobility or SMI that's sort of the operator of the program. They're a nonprofit based out of Buffalo, New York, with some experience in these type of programs across upstate. And Drop Mobility, which is, you'll see probably branded on the bikes. Drop is the kind of the tech shop that provides the bikes and the technology. So, and just a bit briefly about how it works, right? You download your app on your phone, just like City Bike in New York City, if anybody's used that. You go station to station, so you can drop off and pick up at different stations. And so the more the system is like kind of a network or a grid, so you can take a bike in Dobbs Ferry and drop it off in Irvington and vice versa, the better it works. And so that's one of our objectives here, is really to kind of plan for build out of the system in connected communities across the river towns before thinking about perhaps a larger expansion in some of the larger cities in Westchester. So I'll stop there. Went quick. I know I'm got exciting conversations ahead of me, so I wanted to be brief, but let's just start with questions.
Hey, it's Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
Been emailing. You said in your email something about NYSERDA. It's sort of contingent on potentially NYSERDA approving us. I didn't understand if that was to participate at all, or if that was, do we still have a chance to join the grant?
So the grant was originally focused on disadvantaged communities. And so the initial communities that were selected were sort of pretty well locked in that period. So I don't know that there's a ability to use grant funds to expand communities, but what we've been talking about with NYSERDA, and I think what our team as sort of, technical assistance on this project has been advocating for, is I think the more momentum we have to expand the program sooner, the better. So getting you all in 2026 is a goal of mine. But I don't think NYSERDA would greenlight expending grant resources on it. So to bring, another way to put that is to bring Irvington into the program, we would expect Irvington to start to contribute. There's sort of two components, right, to thinking about how the system works. It's like, what does it cost to bring the bikes into the system or into a community? And then there's the sort of operating cost of the program.
So what we need NYSERDA's approval.
We would need NYSERDA to approve expansion of the program, but not sort of, almost think of it as like a no cost extension, if that makes sense, right? So not use of grant funds from NYSERDA for Irvington, but if Irvington contributed almost as like a match into the program, I think we could get NYSERDA. I'm fairly confident we would get NYSERDA on board with that. Yeah.
And then you were saying that I shared with the board the finances that I got from you the first time we talked.
And I know you were saying, to answer your question, Arlene, that's not just for Irvington, that's for the entire corridor.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be split between the municipalities, but it's still unclear how we would cost share that, right?
Sure. And I'm not sure you may have spoken with Alex about the program, or Mitch from our team. The overall cost to run the program is about $300,000 a year. As we sat down with existing partners, existing villages in December, we came to kind of a total of about 150 to 175,000, targeting calendar year 2027 among those 6 villages in town and the town of Ossining to support the current system, right? So that for us is sort of like a 2027 target to sustain the program. Thinking about user revenue being a portion and potential sponsorship. So that's our sort of current target as is for 2027. If we were to expand the program and expand the number of communities, I think we'd look for something probably proportional. So ongoing operating cost, let's say Irvington had somewhere in the range of like 20, 30 bikes in Irvington. You could think about something in the range of maybe 20, 30,000 operating would be perhaps a proportional share there. And then we've got to factor in the cost to kind of bring the bikes into the system. The bikes, we do have existing bikes in the program, but it costs about $3,800 for all-in cost of a bike. These are all electric bikes. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. So they are.
Can
more
I think, hi. I think we need way more clarity on the cost. I think the cost is sort of like it's not clear to me at all what the cost is. So I think we can't even have a discussion. Like, what is the cost? We have to be super clear.
I was unclear. Yeah, the numbers we saw, was it for like the whole region? Is it for us? Like that was very.
I mean, and and I also feel like it was closer to $400,000, right, for the year. Plus, that wasn't really including batteries and all of that. So I feel like the cost has to be way more clear than it is.
So that larger number, that wouldn't be for specifically Irvington? It sounds like you're saying now. When I was reading it, it sounded like it was.
No, correct.
No, it's for the whole
He
system.
just clarified.
Right,
It's
yeah,
for the whole.
that's why I'm.
And that's Ossining to Hastings.
No, I got that now. When I read it.
Yeah. I wasn't sure.
And if my understanding is correct, that 2027, that would be the total cost for everybody, but some people may choose to drop out. They have to pay for it. So then there's,
Cost.
the cost would change for the
Yeah.
people who are left. So that's going to make it very complicated to.
So he's trying to divide it up
They come
between
up
however.
with a number.
And then also, what about installation of the racks? Where would they go in Irvington? What does that cost? I think this seems like very preliminary in terms of what it would cost Irvington.
I think it is a preliminary exploration to understand concerns and questions and
Yeah.
considerations. And am I right? You need a letter of interest from us? Is that what you said in your email? That would be a good takeaway from today.
Yeah, I believe Alex from SMI mentioned a letter of support, kind of general interest, for sure. Very preliminary. I think my intention tonight was just to share with you the kind of overall system costs. So yeah, to use very round numbers, figure about $300,000 a year to run a system of 250 bikes across all of the villages involved. Whether that's to the speaker's point, whether that's split between 6 communities or 8 communities, that's the same rough cost to run a 250 bike system.
Can you explain more like the revenue side of it? Like if someone wants to use the bike, how much does that cost them? And then does that revenue go like back to the villages, or where does that money go?
Sure. So as it's currently set up, the revenue goes back into the program, and with most small and mid-sized communities, it works that way, right? You've got either the city or the association of cities or villages would own the bikes, would typically own the system, with a private company or a nonprofit company taking on the risks and liability and running the program.
It
So
wouldn't
some
have
ways
any
not-
effect on the cost of the program for us if we had more usage.
Sorry, say that again.
Would that have any, let's say we had more, oh, sorry. Would there have been any cost benefit for us to have like, say, more usage, to bring down the cost for our community?
Yeah, I mean, so as I mentioned earlier, right, like user revenue, I think you can probably pin at between 20 and 40% of the total cost to operate the system.
But that would affect us, like,
Well,
what
that's,
the
so
village
it
has to do.
sounds like you're saying that cost comes on the users who are using them more. We're paying per bike and the users pay per usage.
Correct.
But then we get back that money the users paid to reduce our cost, right?
That's what I'm asking.
Correct.
But how do you, so I guess the revenue then is to where they take the bike from? So if I take a bike from Austining and ride it to Terrytown.
Yeah.
The, who gets the money there I guess, and whose bike is it? Because if you're sharing the bikes,
Sure.
is it per bike, like, it, like, is it wherever my bike is in Austining or Dobbs, or is it at the space where they rent it at the, docking station?
Yeah, how do you track it? Like, how does
Sure, I can cover that. So the current system, the bikes are granted by NYSERDA, owned by SMI or Shared Mobility, the Buffalo nonprofit, and that organization redistributes the bikes. So SMI keeps a basic balance of bikes between the villages based on the number of racks available. Generally, you want to have a few more racks available than bikes, and so you'll have there's, I believe, right now one team member, one staff member that's kind of their primary job, right? Is keep the bike serviced and maintained, and make sure that there's a balance, so that if people are taking the bikes in the morning to the train station, that come by and kind of rebalance those bikes so that they're not all stuck in one location, just like City Bike in New York City.
So if I'm doing the round numbers here, you're saying that the whole program costs about $300,000 for 250 bikes. That's like $1,200 a bike. And if Irvington ends up the decision by usage or whatever it is, or your original estimation is 25 bikes is what we would be sort of harboring in our village and maintaining. So 25 times that 1,200 is $30,000. So that would be the yearly round number cost for the village portion of the total cost. The other portions will be paid by the user or now, do we need a advertiser in addition to that, a sponsor?
The assumption is one.
Is that 30,000, could we get a sponsor to help cover some of that?
At 25 bikes, you can think about 30,000 as the all-in costs, and so after user revenue, it might be closer to 20,000. But yeah, those are pretty good round numbers. Most systems of this size do eventually become fairly reliant on a large sponsor. So, for example, the system that's kind of the home system for SMI in Buffalo, New York, is sponsored by Independent Health, which is one of the major health insurers. There's obviously a strong, health connection to get out and ride on bikes. So the system is branded Ready Bike Share. It's branded along with the branding of the health insurer. You see a lot of that, right? Like in New York City, of course, City Bike is sponsored by Citibank, right? So
who gets the sponsor? Are we trying to get a sponsor?
The River Towns environmental groups are already collaborating and talking about, pitching Mercy together, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have one or more sponsors, but they would be for the entire program.
Mm-hmm.
So, Phelps is a possible
Exactly.
person, Regeneron or Mercy would be people who would perhaps come up with being partial or full sponsors, and that would be deducted from what the villages have to contribute. But
What if-
just to gauge our interest,
Yeah. So-
are we interested in thinking about something that could potentially cost us $30,000 a year minus user fee and minus sponsorship fee?
I feel like I'm not clear on the cost, so I think we need more clear costs. Like what would it cost to implement the racks? Where would we implement? Where would we put those? What about accidents? What's the accident data over the program?
Sure. So happy to cover that. And just to be as clear as we possibly can on costs, the villages that we've spoken with, all the villages we've spoken with that are current sponsors have kind of recognized that 2027 is like a transition year, right? So that the goal, of course, to make this thing sustainable is to get a sponsor in place, but we kind of have to grow the system to get there, right? So we can think of 2027 as a transition year where the municipalities would cover that 1 year cost of the system minus revenue. And then from there, you'd look at that more balanced three-legged stool of users, sponsors, and the muni. Liabilities covered by the operator. So that's part of why this model, if you will, makes, you see this pretty consistently in other peer communities to yours, is that you want the you want a nonprofit or a private entity kind of ensuring the system, ensuring the towns, villages, protecting, indemnifying the program, I should say indemnifying the village against the program. And so, yeah, that's sort of standard part of
Who's the operator? I got a little lost. Who's the operator?
Oh, look at that. I can get video now. You can see me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I realized I needed to appoint him as a panelist.
Hey, now not a disembodied head. You can see me. Yeah.
So who's the operator? Like,
Those people in Buffalo.
Yeah, SMI, Shared Mobility Inc. So they've been, so just a little bit of background on them, right? Nonprofit in existence for about 15 years. There's not a lot of programs in small, mid-sized cities that don't operate with a sort of a nonprofit sponsor. So they operate the program in Buffalo. They're in Niagara Falls. They also support the system in the capital region. So Albany, Troy, Schenectady, Rensselaer. It's actually, the system's owned by the transit agency, CDTA. Towns, villages, cities contribute. There's a sponsor. They're also a health insurance company, and you have that nonprofit operator. So this is basically the model that we've arrived at here as well with NYSERDA support. You also have NYSERDA has been supporting these programs since SMI has been doing this for the last 10 years. And so I think it's not unlikely that you might continue to see NYSERDA support. But I think the sort of current phase of the program, you have encouragement on NYSERDA's part to say, okay, the state's going to take a little step back here. State fully funded the bikes the first 3 years of operations. Let's see where municipalities kind of can step in.
So this operator, they set up the stations, they install them, then they are here on a regular basis to move bikes around when necessary, fix flats, pull them out of the river, and whatever else is necessary to keep the stations operating. So that has nothing to do with the village. We pay no attention to that at all. They do that, and I assume they're doing that on a almost daily basis, right? Or weekly or something.
Absolutely daily basis. It's a sometimes 24 hours a day thing, right? You're also actively involved in preventing theft. Maybe a bike's left unlocked, right? You don't want that bike unlocked overnight. So it can be a 24/7 operation. Typically, you don't see a lot of utilization at night. But yeah.
Just a wild question out there. Has this venture been run by the Route 9 project people?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure who the Route 9 project people are.
No, I don't believe the larger group has talked about this at all. Route 9 is a main thoroughfare throughout many of the districts that the state has been overseeing a study to encourage walkability, non-vehicular traffic changing vehicular patterns, adding roundabouts, things of that nature. It's a large study that has happened. And for example, Cherrytown, who I believe is one of your partner organizations, is a big proponent of it. It's going to be a extremely costly project, but it kind of falls in line with what I think you're trying to do writ large, and also encouraging Irvington to be part of that. It would be a connection point for Route 9.
And that's years out, honestly.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time.
It years out, but they're changing Broadway Route 9 from the Yonkers border to Tarrytown, right?
That's correct.
And putting bike lanes in and reducing it to two lane and walking areas.
I mean, certainly long term, right? Both in terms of sharing the cost, right? Economies of scale, connectivity of the system. The more communities involved, the better, right? So someone is much more likely to use the system in Irvington if they can get to Dobbs Ferry, and Dobbs Ferry if they can get to Irvington. But also in terms of sponsorship, right? Look, long-term, White Plains, Yonkers involved in a program in 2028 or 2029 makes it much more compelling for a potential sponsor. So that's something we've got our eye on. But at this point, we're sort of trying to do what we can with the existing fleet, and so that's why Irvington's come up with the other municipalities, particularly Dobbs Ferry, has kind of encouraged us to start this conversation with you, and so that's where we're starting.
And we're at Gap at this point.
Right.
There's a ton of usage between Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown, for example, and Dobbs kind of goes over us over to Tarrytown, and it would be nice to be able to pick up and dock here as well, and in Hastings.
So do we have any nightmare stories of real problems that have occurred? People dying or whatever?
What's going to make the headlines?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because so our my about 80% of our work is in car sharing. So we provide, if you're familiar with Zipcar, car sharing programs primarily in disadvantaged communities. So you can imagine we have our fair share of horror stories, but the bikes in general, right? Yeah, I mean, I would say, look, from a safety standpoint, I would say this: if you've all seen folks on scooters, right? Those are scary. I think bikes, particularly, very heavy bikes, the e-bikes have the advantage of being heavy, having a low center of gravity. Have a much broader range of folks using them in terms of age and gender than scooters. So they're generally very safe. And also they're so big and heavy, and they shut down if somebody tries to steal them. So theft has been generally not I want to say almost non-issue. We haven't seen a lot of vandalism. I think we also have the advantage of maybe this not being maybe the roughest of network of communities of where we've operated these programs before. So yeah, so far so good.
I mean, I guess we also have village officials committee meeting coming up, so we can have a conversation with people who have them already. But I feel like we need more information about whether we can get a sponsor and where would we put the docking stations. Irvington has sort of a challenge.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So they're dockless, right? Isn't it sort of geofenced area or something?
They're dockless, but geofenced to racks. So you have sort of standard bike racks, if you will. If you look at the program in the current villages that it's in, they're all generally the same racks.
Yeah, there's a rack like there's that rock in Dobbs Ferry where the pool is. There's that rock on the corner.
It'd be great if we could put one on the aqueduct in the parking lot,
So
There's no, you don't have to install electricity, like somebody's coming around and replacing the batteries.
Well, we'd have to replace with aqueduct lot because that's not technically the village.
Yeah, that's right. That will be a thing, is to figure out where we're going to dock.
Yeah.
Because you want it to obviously not block the flow of traffic on the sidewalk and have enough space. But we do need to think about that.
I like at least having the rack when you were saying before dockless, I was worried that it was just like people leaving bikes random places on the streets, which I think would be the best.
No, other
It's like those
geofence idea is
scooters.
to contain that chaos.
Yeah. That's good.
And just to let the board know,
Yes,
we
Walter,
we
yeah.
actually engaged Walter Montgomery, the traffic safety study, to have a conversation with this organization to talk about it. From a safety standpoint, and I believe you've started to look into it, but it's fairly new that you got involved.
I'm not really a member of the public, so I
You can come, yeah.
You're always welcome, Walter.
We're pretty flexible on
Some kind of
our,
official You are?
people
Okay.
talking,
That's
yes,
good.
during
No,
work sessions.
Our concern is obviously the safety implications. And those are indeed important. So I think they need further consideration. Obviously, it's a great technology and a great way of getting around for environmental reasons, health reasons, and so forth. However, this village arguably presents unique challenges for bikers, in part because of the hill, in part because the main drag through the village is Route 9. I don't think we want a lot more bike traffic on Route 9 right now anyway, at least until it's improved. So there are some serious concerns. In addition, we've already encountered one or more electric bikes on the aqueduct speeding along at speeds greater than the ordinary bike. So there are some, real concerns for intra and inter-village transportation with these vehicles, as good as they are intrinsically. So we would like to consider safety, possible safety repercussions.
Well, you mentioned the aqueduct, and, I go on the aqueduct, and there are a fair number of people now who run electric bikes up and down the aqueduct, which is presumably not allowed. I would imagine that, particularly if you're connecting Dobbs Ferry to Tarrytown, the aqueduct, short of the Route 9 project, putting in bike lanes, people are going to very quickly realize it's a lot safer to bike on the aqueduct than it is on the highway. I mean, when I ride my bike around, I avoid Broadway, and I go on the aqueduct. So, short of major enforcement, I would guess that people would end up seeing the obvious and going on the aqueduct. Is that something that contemplate? What we do about
They
it?
already use the aqueduct.
Right.
I feel like it's kind of a mix. I mean, I've done a lot of biking like on the aqueduct and on Broadway, and to be honest, like they both are scary in different ways. You know?
Yes,
So
I second that.
Rocks
100%.
versus cars.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. It's always like you're kind of tossing a coin, like which do I want to face today, you know? But so I don't know. I don't know that
Sounds
it's fair,
great
it's fair
and
to say that
fun, yeah.
all traffic will go on aqueduct because I don't think it's a clear win for a lot of people. Like a lot of people are more afraid of the aqueduct than the street, and so I don't know. I mean, I guess we could ask: are there speed controls on the bikes? Like, does it limit how fast they can go?
And I can double check that with SMI to give you an exact answer, but most systems are limited at 15 miles an hour.
I think. I mean, the one great. I definitely appreciate hearing safety concerns. For sure, and something we need to figure out. But I think the one benefit of electric bikes is it's not just like young kids going fast. You know what I mean? Like, I think it does help a lot of people with mobility issues.
Yeah.
Use a bike where they couldn't before, especially like you were saying, Walter, like in an area where there's a lot of hills and stuff like that. Like an electric bike can be the difference between like not biking at all versus like, doing something.
And I've lately been seeing parents take their kids home from school. It's like, oh my God, relieve all that school traffic.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
My family does that, to be honest.
Aw.
Yeah. We have one, and my wife
Potentially,
takes
it
it.
adds,
Quite a bit.
it adds to congestion on the streets, potentially, bike traffic. It creates some safety issues. As admirable as the technology is, to say the least.
Are there things we could do that would help mitigate it, say on Broadway? Like, is there something that like we could use to change like the lines on the street to like try to make there a little more space on the side of the road or something?
Well, that's a big discussion.
It is a big discussion. For many reasons could be beneficial.
To that point, I have noticed that if you go from Southern Hastings to Route 119, Route 9 has been completely changed, and the only 4-lane section is in Irvington. The 4-lane section is totally eliminated in Dobbs Ferry, in Tarrytown, and in Hastings. It
On North Broadway, I understand it. On South Broadway, I have to admit, I don't quite understand it. There's not that much traffic there. And people just end up speeding down towards Dobbs. Doesn't seem necessary.
If what was done from Sunnyside to 119 and from Dobbs Ferry to Hastings, if that was done in the Irvington section, and instead of 4 lanes, it would be 2 lanes with a passing zone in the middle, that would significantly make biking safer.
And more bikes means less cars. Which is obviously a net positive.
Now, I don't know, Walter, how are you going to convince DOT to do what they did? I sure as heck I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I would do it if you asked me.
They totally changed it there
All right,
before
so
119.
as much as I want to spend the whole night here, hanging out.
I've settled in. I was gonna get
You
a
know.
sleep bag.
So,
Yeah,
next steps.
yes.
Next steps.
Yeah, so I think, as Alex from SMI mentioned in his email, I think just a general statement of interest is probably what we're looking for at this point. Obviously, we want to bring this discussion back to the current villages that are involved in the program and encourage them to think about you as a partner, and would also encourage you to continue those conversations yourselves, as you mentioned before. I'm happy to follow up with that kind of rough breakdown of proportional costs that I mentioned verbally, so you get a sense of exactly the numbers that we're anticipating. But of course, it is. I would encourage you to think of 2027 again as kind of this target we're setting for a transition year, and probably a higher target than what would be sustainable long term. So I can follow up with an email on that, and yeah, if you all are interested, we'd love to get a letter of support.
So January 2027, that's when the other municipalities have to also fund a sponsor. And so that's round 2.
NYSERDA funding gets us through a full season of 2026. Perhaps some sort of demonstration or trial or
And maybe we can
even
go
an
look at some of the other
event or
sites.
something like that. Yeah, but we've got some time here.
Try riding a bike, you know?
I think before we could express interest, we need a clearer breakdown of what the proportional costs might be. Given that they're in these sort of round numbers that we're just throwing out,
Sure.
Maybe we're interested in, we like the idea, but we sort of need more clarity on the numbers, particularly if there's anything extra for installation or whatever.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think we have to have some more information on where we would install those, a little bit more information on like safety.
Yeah, what are the requirements for this dockless area? Like, how much space do you need? What is that? What are the criteria? So we can start to identify locations.
Yeah.
Sure, we can provide some of that as well. And even if you have some kind of preliminary hubs that you might like us to evaluate, it's easy to do that on, Google Street View.
We're hubless. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Our problem is we're
Field Point
hubless.
parking lot?
Well, I think the train station would benefit a lot of people to come up the hill for their commute.
Top of Broadway.
And if they could drop off the bike either at the top of Broadway or somewhere further up,
I mean, up and down the hill, I think is gonna be a pretty
It's
common
huge.
usage. It's probably our main usage.
right? And if we could
It's easy to go up a
include,
hill with these things.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I have one. It's like going downhill when you're going uphill. It's lovely.
right, and,
But- Right, so instead of like walking off the train, you would take the bike up to Field Point and
Yeah.
then.
Walk from there to your home or whatever.
I think that could be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of walkers that,
Yeah, I
walk
mean,
up that hill.
I was looking at the maps online of where the program's already in place, and it looks like there's a lot of connectivity, and I'm curious about, Dobbs. I mean, I think almost every village that's currently with the program has a much larger population than we do, so I'm wondering if that might impact us, because they are showing like multiple, they, like, I think Dobbs and Terrytown had like 10 docking stations, Dobbs has 5, I think.
Yeah, well, they're
So-
bigger areas too.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but So I'm wondering though, like, to make it worthwhile, like, do we
Yeah.
need more than like
I mean, something in
two?
the middle would make sense. Is the school a viable host or is that an administrative nightmare?
I don't,
I can
None
see
of
where you're
them.
going with this. No, no, I mean, it's a
They
good idea,
weren't-
actually.
They, I don't think they were at schools.
I mean, there are limitations, I think, on electric bikes. I think you have to be over 16 to drive them, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, not that you couldn't, it wouldn't help, but it would be
Yeah.
only for the upper class.
Okay, well, let's.
I can't imagine any of those kids riding a bike, because they don't. They
Oh,
could
I
now.
know kids do.
Be
Yeah,
willing
but
to
they
be
don't- I mean,
seen
well,
on
you
a
live by
bike.
there. I was gonna say, they don't bike to school, do they? No, they won't.
Well, we're so close.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Um,
Yours are close.
but they would. I mean, I used to make them walk to Dallas from there. I'm that kind of mom.
You and Ariella. I never gave him a ride anywhere.
You can walk. I don't care if it's snowing. Anyway, okay.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
get some
yeah.
more information.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
also just thank you for everything you guys do. I come in here and I'm like, God, you guys are seriously,
Just 'cause
all your
it's 9:20 at night and
evenings
we're
doing
not
this.
even close to them.
God bless you is what I have to say.
You're welcome to sit
Thanks,
through
guys.
more budget meetings. if
Thank
want.
you.
It's cold in here.
Yeah,
It's
so,
freezing
so,
here.
so just to wrap up,
Yeah.
the only thing I'd say is there's an item in your packet related to senior parking. Parking at the senior center has been a frequent issue. I spoke with the police chief and with village council.
I think we can.
Yeah, well, you can drop off.
Bye.
Bye.
Creighton, you all can drop off whenever you want to. We're just moving on to the next item. So I created a draft local law that would allow the police department.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay, that would allow the police department to enforce parking in the senior center lot between the hours of 8 and 3, Tuesday through Friday. They would have restricted parking access in that entire lot during that time. Anyone who's not possessing a tag would be able to be ticketed, do a citation for doing it. So that's generally it. I don't have a lot to discuss. I just wanted
Time, I didn't quite catch it.
8 to 3,
8 to 3.
Tuesday through Friday. They're closed on Mondays. Essentially, that's the ask, vehement ask by the seniors to have dedicated parking there. So this is a mechanism for them to do that. There really isn't enough parking there to kind of share it with the people who are using the sports courts there. But just showing you a draft kind of lays out kind of what we would do. It would be administered through my office and the seniors.
I just think they're okay with like the registration process getting the pass.
Well, they already have to register to participate in the senior center anyway.
Okay.
So they would just, similar to how staff get a pass for Aqueduct, they would provide their license plate, get a tag, hang the tag.
And then, have you spoken to the chief of police to make sure that the parking enforcement officer can and will enforce the parking rules?
His feeling is that this does allow them to enforce it, but he's obviously going to defer to village council to really thoroughly evaluate the language of the local law. I've shared it with Marianne, but this is still a draft form. Ultimately, if we were to change the local law, it would be a public hearing. It would notice, make sure we solicit feedback. That's really all I have. So what I would just recommend is we table that for now. We'll have another conversation about it. We can adjourn the work session to move into advice of council. So you should take a motion in a second.
Okay, so a motion to adjourn, and I don't think that's just to adjourn. We don't have to move. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.